Hey, you're finally awake. You sure look sleepy. There's been lots of that going around lately, but don't you wake up just yet. I'm not quite finished here, so go back to sleepies. That's it. Nighty night, sleep tight, something about bed bugs, you know the drill. Ah, there we go. Good morning. Just in time for the tour. As you know, the game we're working on is called Clean Up on Isle Goblin and is about a little goblin trying to get rid of the annoying, dirty humans on their island. The game will have lots of social and town building aspects similar to Stardew Valley, and the combat is turn-based, playing similarly to Crypt of the Necrodancer. The very first thing I did this month was get going on music. Well, the music system, that is. Mike has been working on the actual music itself. I'm just writing the code that'll switch between songs. We decided early on that we wanted each major area to have an area theme that will play in the background every now and then, and when the player walks up to enemies, it'll seamlessly transition into a combat version of the theme. This way we can add intensity to encounters to make them more interesting. We also want to be able to, during peaceful moments, not have constant music and have ambient sounds instead. This was relatively simple to implement, but it had some challenges. First off, we ended up splitting the combat song into an intro portion and a loop portion that get uploaded as two separate files. The idea was to have the game play the intro portion, wait till that ends, then play the loop portion, the second the intro stops. The problem was, it wasn't working properly from the get-go. Here's a sample of what it was doing. It would sometimes play the loop too early, sometimes too late, so we would get this weird stutter. After banging my head into a wall trying to figure out if it was an issue with our music files exporting weird or the code I made, I eventually figured out that Unity has its own special timing system that is much more accurate for music. I won't go into too many details, but we got it working. Here you can see when I walk up to this enemy group, the regular music fades out, and we fade into the combat system. No weird stutters to be found. I'd also like to add that this music is temporary. I told Mike that we needed some quick tunes to test out the system, so he threw together a quick springtime theme and changed some of the instruments around to make a quick combat theme. We've gone back and forth on what we want to do for the overall style of the music in the final product, and he's been providing different samples of different ideas. So far, we like the idea of an orchestral sound for the overworld, similar to Terraria, with some flexibility to make dungeons and such have a more intense EDM type feel to them. We'll see where it goes. We're still in the design phase on all that. But moving on, the next feature is a fairly unique one, I think. I added what I'm calling awakeness. I wanted to stay away from the concept that Stardew uses for sleep. In that game, when the clock reaches a certain point, you just instantly pass out. And if you go to bed at 6 p.m. like an old lady, or 2 a.m. like me, there's no real difference the next day. I like the idea of having a bit more flexibility in the player's schedule. I wanted them to be able to go to sleep whenever and however long they wanted. I decided on this awakeness meter, where it shows how many hours of awakeness the player has left before they collapse. If the player goes to sleep, they'll get double their sleep duration back as awakeness. So if the player goes to sleep for 8 hours, they'll get 16 hours awakeness, just like real life. If the player goes to sleep 8 hours every night, they'll have a regular schedule and be just fine. But if they want to stay up late one night and sleep all day the next day, they have the option to do that as well. Depending on how this goes, I may add diminishing returns on how much rest you get. If you sleep 8 hours, you'll get 16 hours of awakeness. If you sleep for 9 hours, you'll get 18. But maybe at the 12-hour mark, you stop gaining as much, and instead of 24 hours of awakeness, you get 23 or something. I'll need to do some testing and see how that goes, but I feel like there should be a slight penalty for having a crazy bonkers sleep schedule. We'll see. I'm leaving it up in the air for now. It should be quick to implement. With this, I added this cute little bed that the player can hop into, and the NPCs can occupy them as well. When the player walks up to the bed, it'll pop up a little HUD asking how long they want to sleep. Selecting the sleep amount will fill their awakeness meter and pass time accordingly. I even have it set so you can bother the poor sleeping NPCs in their little beds. You'll also notice that I was a bit sneaky and didn't want to make a sleep animation for each and every character, so I just made this little bed mound sprite to make it look like they were all cozy in their blankets. On a similar note to adding in nice, relaxing naps, I finally implemented if the player's health goes to 0, they collapse on the floor and respawn in the infirmary or perhaps the entrance to whatever dungeon they died in. All the framework was here, I just had to do a little animation, fade the screen, and move the player to another area. I'd also like to provide a disclaimer here. I'm avoiding adding too many fancy effects for now since I'm prioritizing getting a working prototype of everything. A lot of this is unpolished and not how I really want it to be in the end. For example, I'd like maybe a fade to red with a "you died" or something on the death sequence, maybe with a blur of some sort and some sort of sad death sound. But since we're in the early stages, I think getting the main gameplay loop going is most important, so I'm focusing on that. The most fun parts of the game I think will be combat, if it isn't too easy, and interacting with the townsfolk while building up the town. So I want to get each of those to a point where I can test them nicely before I go super hard on little animations and fluff. But anyways, speaking of... I finally made a way for the player to fall to it. Their death, that is. I put in these little pits that the player can walk over, and if they do, it starts a falling sequence. They then get placed back on the ledge, hopefully remembering the view from halfway down and not wanting to do it again. Our Discord squad was helpful in critique of the falling animation. Apparently, spinning with his hands up, the little masochist was a bit too eager at first. So go ahead and hop in the old Discord if you like telling me I'm wrong, or want to stay in tune with progress, or do whatever they're doing in the spam channel. And hey, while you're clicking links willy-nilly, go check out the Steam page. It's very early, but if you were to wishlist and tell all your friends to check out these devlogs, it would mean the world to me and help us out a ton. Links are all in the video's little description section. Okay, now I see that look on your face. You want to know about the fishing minigame, don't you? Well, don't you worry, sport, just 2 more teensy-weensy changes and I'll show you what we've got. First is the easy one. I added little pockets to the armor. Something about a little goblin collecting things in their pockets really appealed to me. I guess when I imagine a typical goblin, it's got random sticks, rocks, and of course some valuable teeth in there. But this is where the player will equip items that add bonuses, similar to how Hollow Knight has those charms you can equip. Each item placed here will do something different, be it increased movement speed, increased damage, better luck, whatever else. I was able to use the same inventory box code for my other boxes, so implementing was a breeze. Okay, so backpedal to 5 days ago before I started working on fishing. I thought this next change was going to be my favorite. It really adds a lot of pizzazz to the game, and I'm really excited about it. Turns out, it wasn't even that hard. I wanted to add dynamic shading to my 2D sprites. Right now I just have lights that move around and make the objects more or less visible. What if the light is to the left of the object though? Ideally, only the left side would light up. Well, I finally dove into the world of normal maps. Normal maps are sprites where, instead of displaying the actual object, they display how light bounces off the object. Kinda using color as data, if that makes sense. So if I color my object this dark green color, when the light is to the left of the object, that part will light up. If I color some of my object this orangey color, then that portion will light up when the light is to the right of the object. Here it is in action. See how when I move around these trees, different parts of the sprite light up? It's a little subtle, but I just love it. It really makes everything pop out a lot. But that's not even the best part. I wanted areas you can't see to be darker, but I wasn't sure how. I did some monkeying and found out that Unity has an experimental 2D shadow system. It's got some quirks and it's very intensive, but I made it so the player's light casts shadows. I think this really adds a lot of visual appeal. Here's a comparison of before versus after. The new one really comes to life, and I'm happy with the result. But enough about all that. The moment we've all been waiting for. I was struggling to think of a unique and interesting fishing mechanic. Stardew has their fun little game where you try to keep the fish in the bar. Animal Crossing just tests your reflexes, but I wanted to do something different. I decided on something a bit strange. A Guitar Hero style DDR game, like Friday Night Funkin'. I figured the arrows are like the players tugging their fishing rod in different directions to try to pull the fish in. So I got to work making the little animations for the player with their fishing rod, made an animation for when you either catch or miss a fish, and drew some base art for the UI. After some long hours, I got it working nicely. Here's the result. I'll shut up so you can hear my super cool and original prototype mix that I made all by myself. And there we have it. At first, I had a little success bar on the left where if you made too many mistakes, it stops the game and shows you how bad you're doing. But I decided I like this kinda Pokeball-esque system where you don't know if you succeed or fail until you see the animation. Kinda adds some suspense. I also made it super easy for Mike when he starts making songs for this. All he has to do to place the notes is make a new one of these spreadsheets by putting X's wherever the notes need to go. I also provided the ability for him to put the name of a note instead of an X. Say we wanted a little meep sound to play every time a note is hit or whatever, and we wanted that meep to be the same note as the music that's playing. He could write D flat in here, and then the software can play the sound at the right moment. Overall, this was a very successful month. I logged a whopping 127 hours of work over the course of 30 days, while also dealing with a full-time job, somehow managing to hang out with friends, and my ever-so-supportive girlfriend. This thing has really become my baby, and I'm excited to see it through to the end. And on that note, links are all below. If you want to subscribe to Progress, wishlist, like, or add me anywhere, it helps a ton to get the word out. Thanks again for coming by, and see you next time.